Morning all, welcome to this morning's Tagmarshal webinar where we'll be talking about player experience and pace of play. My name is Stephen Knoop, I'm the Managing Director of Tagmarshal International based in Cork, Ireland, and I'm joined this morning by our special guests Colin Sinclair and Derek Reid from Carnoustie. Morning guys.
Good morning.
Morning.
And of course the ever-present CEO and co-founder of Tagmarshal, Bodo Siebe. Morning Bodo.
Good morning.
And lurking in the background there, the marketing director, Malcolm Corns. Morning, Malcolm.
Morning, guys.
Well, let's get the show on the road. For those of you who don't know about Tagmarshal, we're a golf course intelligence system. We will have tracked 7 million rounds of golf and collected nearly 1 billion data points by the end of 2018, and working with 200 courses across 9 countries around the world. We're an official partner of EasyLinks, which is a PGA tour company, as well as research and technology partners to the USGA and AJGA, amongst others. How do we track all these rounds? Well, we do this through walking, card courses, combination courses, where we're working in the daily fee, resort, and private club space, with more than 50% of the courses falling into the $40 to $50 fee bracket. For a European guest today, you can xe.com that, and you're looking at around the €40 or £34 mark. We were fortunate to be working with a number of the best courses and operational teams in the world. In the US, we work with Erin Hills, Whistling Straits, East Lake, Oakmont, Valhalla, to name a few. And Europe-wise, we work with our guest today, Carnoustie, Stoke Park, Hartspawn, Hadleywood, Waterville, Ballybunion, further western Ireland, and much further down south in Europe, Alconada in Spain. Which brings me on our guest today from Carnoustie. Host to the Malinora Magic at this year's Amazing British Open and the Links Championship over the next few days. We are very grateful to have Colin Sinclair, PGA Head Professional, and Derek Reid, Head of Golf Operations, joining us today to share some of the ingredients to the magic potion of Carnoustie. No better person to pick their brains than Tagmarshal CEO and ex-German rugby international Bodo. Over to you, mate.
Thank you, Stephen. So Colin and Derek, we've chatted a little bit in the intro, so we'll give you lots of airtime. If you will allow me just to jump in, and we're saying that we want to look at the experience in golf and why is it important. So we thought let's ask our friends from the USGA, and obviously they work very closely with the RNA, just keeping tabs on growth of the game internationally. So Hanke Yoon, who's the Director of Partnerships, Outreach and Education, Research, Science and Innovation, is quite a mouthful. He was very quick to shoot back some numbers for us. So what they're seeing is that there's been a downward trend in golf in the US in the last 7 years, so there's a slight reduction in overall play. In the UK, but what he's also saying is that golf's done a good job in attracting new members. It's just the number of people that are jumping off is slightly bigger than the number of people that are coming on. In the UK, we are seeing obviously also an aging membership, so there's a big challenge in getting younger players on, and so we want to understand what's important to them and what's important to their experience, and why is the experience key. And at the same time, we want to obviously stay relevant to the current members and to that golden 55, 65 and older generation that's got lots of time for golf. So what are the USGA saying is important? We need to do a better job of retaining customers, especially newcomers. And how do we do that? We focus on the experience of our customers. So they've done a very interesting survey where they rated the satisfaction level of a round of golf, and they found it was at 69% in the US. While this sounds sort of fair or acceptable, the moment you compare this to satisfaction levels with airlines and the post office, you realize it's exactly the same. So we know that it's okay and it works, but there's room for improvement. Obviously, there's always room for improvement, and excellence is a journey, not a destination. One of the key things that is for them is the correlation between participation and satisfaction. So if satisfaction levels are high, if the experience is great, participation goes up, and obviously that's good for the game of golf, and that's good for the business of golf. So this is something to be mindful. And we know that when it comes to satisfaction, there are a few key ingredients that power players like Carnoustie would do really well. And Colin, I'm going to ask you just now, and I know that we've spoken about this before, but one of the ways of working and how you make sure that there's a great experience and a great Carnoustie experience is that you understand what really matters to the guests, and a lot of that comes with they want to know about the tradition at the course, and then obviously what it's like to be there in the now. And so you're defining that really well, and you're defining what the experience is that you stand for. You innovate with technology and use modern opportunities to work smarter, and ultimately you empower your setups and your team staff to be aligned with the customer experience, so that everybody who's got a touch point is fully aligned with what you're trying to convey and what you stand for. And ultimately you need to obviously look for metrics and ways to measure and continuously improve. So Colin, at Carnoustie, I believe that this is something that you subscribe to quite firmly, this way of working. Am I right?
Yeah, very much. It's, we need to know who we are. We feel we are the greatest challenge of any links course in the world. We've got obviously a lot of history behind golf being played here since the mid 1800s, and it's incredibly important for us to we're custodians of the links, and we have to make sure that we deliver the customer experience. And we split our customers into two. We have members and we have visitors, and they're different demographics. But they're aligned with, they love playing golf and they want to play the best course. So we certainly, from a course point of view, yeah, our course is outstanding. We have the Dunhill, which is just literally teed off. So we have, again, the best players in the world coming through and playing and being challenged. And our general play, our golfers want to be challenged as well. But we need to make sure that experience they get, the staff are, number one. The staff, if the staff are aligned, they're empowered, they will look after the customers. So it's, that's always the constant battle with any organization, is to get quality staff. That's the big thing that we've got to keep working on at Carnoustie.
Absolutely. How big is your staff contingent? And obviously you've got 3 courses that you're looking after.
Our overall staff in the whole organization, we're about 130 now. That's through, we have about 40 green staff. We have about just over 30 in the golf operations. Our chief exec and his administration team, marketing department, and then obviously our great restaurant, food and beverage. So yeah, it's about 130, 140 now, which is growing year on year.
Sure. Okay, great. So that's great to understand, and we have taken some pointers here from McKinsey, just in terms of customer journeys, and just distilled it down and what makes sense to the golf operators. And obviously this is feedback that we're getting from Colin and many other operators that we're working with. So what we want to look at first is so what is key to a great golf experience, because we said we want to understand what really matters to the guests and members, what really matters to the golfers, and ultimately define the experience that the course stands for. So as far as the golfer's decision to go and play a bucket list round at an amazing course like Carnoustie, or to go and play a round at the course down the road, or to go and join a course that is going, to promise them the right value that they would go and play it often in the season. There's 3 key factors. One is experience in all its shapes and facets, and then there's time. And time is a question of when can I do it, and how much time budget do I need to do it, or do I have rather. And obviously this comes with can I play 18 holes on a Monday or on a Saturday when everybody else wants to play? Do I have to play 9 holes here or there? How do I get my value? And ultimately it's cost, what's it worth to me? And there's a number of courses, and we've, like Stephen said earlier, we're very fortunate in working with a really broad spectrum in terms of there's $25 rounds, there's middle of the road private clubs, and then there's the absolute world beating, the Mount Everest of golf type facilities like Carnoustie. So Colin, from your side, what would you say are the key factors around experience and providing a great experience at Carnoustie?
Well, first and foremost, the golf course. That's why people are coming here, the conditioning of it. I think bearing in mind as well the amount of play that we get. In our championship course gets approximately 43,000 rounds, and that's pretty much between April and October, November. Not blessed with the best weather here in the winter time. Although the courses are open, the conditioning of the golf course is outstanding year on year. Not just the championship, our other, our Burnside and Budden links are conditioning are fantastic. That's the first thing. But in the layout, and our layout, maybe probably slightly biased, but I don't know any golf course laid out better than what we are. Yeah, I'll always shout for Carnoustie, but it's the layout is so clever. You know, it was designed. It's had kind of reincarnations. 1842 was the kind of first layout of 10 holes, and then 18 holes or another 8 holes were added to make the 18 in the mid 1860s. But the layout that we really have nowadays is from the late 1920s. So it's, you know, nearly 100 years. It's you know, there's a few trees that have come out and a few bunkers added in, but really the layout has stood the test of time for a century, and it is so good. The bunkering is just unbelievably good, and bearing in mind that there's nostalgia, there's history, so people want to come and play it. We're blessed that we've had 8 Open Championships, and this year was just unbelievable. You know, incredible weather in Scotland this summer, and you know, very little rough, and the best players. And this is the best players in the world. Obviously, we got to witness a lot of them at the weekend. Europe beating America. I thought I'd throw that one in. But
yes,
it was definitely
you predicted that outcome. That's fair and square.
And I did predict it. Yes, yeah, I did predict it. I don't get many things right, but I got that one right. The course was the winner, and that was the big thing. It just shows you how good the golf course is. So it's all about the golf course first and foremost, and that's what's attracting people to play it, whether it's a member, whether it's a visitor. And yes, the conditioning of it, as I say, our superintendent and his team do a fantastic job in preparing it. Their knowledge on agronomy is, you know, what they don't know is not worth knowing. They are, you know, they're very passionate about delivering a golf course that's playable, enjoyable. It's tough, and you've got to bear that in mind. And obviously, we'll talk on that a little bit later on about the pace of play. But it is a tough golf course. But you're walking on, you know, on hallowed turf that the greats of the game have played for over a century. So you know, that's a big thing we like to play on. And then it's going to staff, as I alluded to earlier on, that the staff are the absolute key to the business. They're on the ground floor, they're delivering a job, but everybody's got to be, like your previous slide, everybody's got to be aligned to what you know, what Carnoustie is about and what we're trying to deliver. Yeah, that's a challenge that every organisation faces. But you know, just with good communications and just people feeling part of it. That yeah, just you've got to be passionate about working. Well, just not here. I think you just got to be passionate about working in the golf industry. We're so lucky to work in this great game. You know, sometimes we don't feel like it's work. It's just dealing with you know, just looking after people that it's their hobby. I mean, this is the leisure industry, so we're not trying to put a rock on the moon here. It's, you know, it is the leisure industry. So let's just make sure that everybody has a great time and a fantastic experience. And yeah, golf course, conditioning, staff, the quality of the service levels they're providing, and then, you know, the great clubhouse experience, food and beverage, the pro shop, coaching, engagement. You know, just people love to talk golf. So that's why it's incredibly important that everybody's passionate about it.
So Colin, would you agree that you've got 2 responsibilities? One is obviously you have the course and you want to condition it as well as possible. You've got a fantastic team that does it. And the other responsibility is to present it well every single day. And that's obviously where staff comes in. And that's where the experience on the course, the on-course experience and the flow, and obviously you've got caddies and you've got lots of moving parts that help make that better.
Yeah, very much.
Is that how you look at it?
Yes.
Brilliant. So you've already mentioned a lot of key ingredients for success here, but we want to just bring that back quickly again to a really good USGA survey, because we want to understand what's important to golfers, and we understand that there's a difference with a golfer that comes to a bucket list course, and obviously they've got super high expectations and they want to be blown away. But most golf gets played at your course down the road, right? So, but what's important to golfers is course conditioning. So 80% of respondents say course condition is key to my experience. And you've got this down, obviously. Then people that they play with is very important. This is not something that as operators you can necessarily manage all the time, but from what I understand, obviously a lot of people come in groups to Carnoustie and you try and get them to play together, but also there is often, and most of the time, there's a caddy involved, and that's certainly somebody who spends a lot of time with the players. So are they part of the magic sauce at Carnoustie? And especially seeing that 76% of people are saying it's important who they play with, and if you've got a caddy with you, how do you make sure that the caddy adds that extra bit of value, and what's important for your caddy program?
Yeah, our caddy program is run by Ailsa Roy, our caddy master. And yeah, as you quite rightly pointed out, they are with the guest longer than anybody else within the organisation. So yeah, they are a massive part of the business, the guest experience. You know, most of our caddies are local, so it's creating you know, creating jobs within the local community. So they are a big part of the experience. So Ailsa, she runs the program, and we're continually trying to improve it, like we are with every part of our business. But and again, it's, you know, when you're playing a place like this, it's great to know about the history and the nostalgia, and the caddies know about it. You know, they're very, again, it's the passion. So if you're getting local people, a lot of them are members as well. So if you're getting that passionate golfer, I mean, they're all golfers, if you get that passionate, that will kind of feed its way through into the guest experience, these service levels that we're all trying to match and improve year on year. But if you get people that absolutely embrace it and are passionate about Carnoustie, then it's not difficult for them to put across what we're trying to do. So yeah, they are, yeah, like every member of staff, caddies are staff, they're part of the team.
Yeah.
It's incredibly important that everybody's on line with you know, what our goal is. You know, it's nice to be nice. That's a big role. You're going to get some people that don't want to talk too much, and you're going to get some people who want to talk all day, and you'll gauge that. But you're just trying to yeah, just trying to be nice to be nice.
You mentioned something very important here. That's a journey of continuous improvement, and that you look into continuous improvement, and obviously the caddy program falls within that. And that brings me to another point, and obviously that's a bit of a focus of our particular session, is that 74% of players say the pace and the flow of the play is very important to them. And by that, they don't necessarily mean how long does it take me to play, even though that's important, especially in your day-to-day play. But they mean there are no hold-ups that I've got a great time out there and I don't have to wait like in peak hour traffic, which obviously is a big experience deterrent. So maybe we want to just jump ahead and look at, because obviously we know, and that's why you hear that using data and analytics to help do that better. So maybe we just quickly look at what does a round of golf look like in terms of time budget that a person makes available. And we're fully mindful that somebody's looking forward to a round of Carnoustie for a long time, and they want to spend as much time at and around the course and your food and beverage as possible. But it is a big time commitment, especially in your day-to-day and week-to-week life. So I've got two little sons, so for me to free up 6.5 hours plus potential travel time to get to a course and play around on a Saturday is increasingly difficult. So I've got high expectations as to, okay, please do this well for me, so I can play more golf. Because if we don't do it well, then obviously that's an experience that's not optimal for me, and then something's got to give in terms of time. So there is a lot of data that that courses are collecting, especially in that booking and in that pre-round space, and also there's a lot of data that's getting collected in the post-round space, because we want to look at how is data empowering the industry. So the pro shop, and obviously there's point of sale systems, inventory management, that's all part and parcel. And a few years ago that would have been different. Also a few years ago there would have been a lot of phone or sort of alternative round bookings, and not a lot of it happens online. Obviously, if it's online, it's digitized, you can collect data around it. But what we're seeing is there's a big opportunity to do that better with data. And then obviously when it comes to data analytics, it's very important to quantify performance, and that is traditionally done on a month by month or quarter by quarter, especially in finance. And when it comes to managing business performance with data, that's where real-time data becomes really, really powerful. So there are two key aspects where golf has got lots of opportunity for more data usage, and one is data and maintenance management. And Colin, you mentioned you've got 40 staff, and obviously they are working really hard across your 3 properties. If you don't mind me asking, how much budget in terms of percentage is going into presenting your course and the conditioning and just making sure that Carnoustie is Carnoustie?
Well, that would be more, the 40s are superintendent's, his responsibility, so I don't know the numbers on that side. I say on the golf ops side, including pro shop, we've got just over 30. But yeah, and a big part of the business, goes towards the upkeep of the golf course, without a shadow of a doubt. But the exact numbers, I don't have that.
No, that's fine. Often, and obviously we've done a lot of research into this. So it's normally anywhere between 40 and 60% of budget that goes into course operation and making sure the course is well conditioned. And this is obviously a massive chunk. So there's a lot of reasons why we should try and do this in an efficient way. And there's another opportunity around this, and that's obviously 82% of players say course conditioning is super important to them. So great, put your budget there. But where we're seeing an opportunity, and this is something that you've obviously sharing, is that 74% of players saying the pace, and by that they mean the flow and the time out there, is crucial. And can we do that better with data? Because that is the biggest time chunk in terms of my golf commitment. And these 4 hours are that's not an exact science, and obviously every course is different. Some are walking, and some are cart, and some are longer, and some are shorter, and some are extremely tough. But there is an expectation that because I've got a certain time budget available, and that this should happen within that time budget. Because if it doesn't, and there's very easy ways that this can go wrong, because if a course is packed out and a tee time starts 20 minutes later, and then there's a few holdups on the course, all of a sudden we've added 40 minutes to a round, that's an hour difference. And if I've got a commitment straight after, then that cuts into my time for burger and beers that I would like to spend at the course. So at Carnoustie, obviously you're in a special situation, because the people really make the time, and it's on their bucket list, and they may only play once or a few times in their life. So that's not really a big drive, but still you want to make sure that there's consistency in the experience. And is it not also a case of a lot of people have got sort of tourism related requirements, or they want to play 2 great courses on the same day? Is this something that you take into account? And do you know if somebody comes that says, I want to play Carnoustie in the morning and St Andrews in the afternoon, so that you can try and make that happen for them?
Yes, I'll bring Derek on this, because he's obviously with the guests on the ground floor. So Derek, I'll let you answer that.
Yeah, generally speaking, when people arrive, St Andrews is done by a ballot. So they may be playing St Andrews, they may not. So as an alternative, they'll come to us. We always try to accommodate them as best we can. Also, other scenarios are when they may be needing to catch a flight. So we will do our level best to put them out in an earlier time. We always try to accommodate the guests, always. So that experience at Carnoustie is fulfilled, you know. But generally speaking, playing, people might play Kingsbarns, St Andrews, but if they're doing both in the same day, we need to be in the middle of the summer because we lose light later in the year. So generally speaking, we're really busy in the summer and we do what we can to help out. We also occasionally check the ball at St Andrews, and we do occasionally speak to St Andrews, but usually they're really always full. But we can having 3 courses here, we can sometimes make an arrangement for them.
So you're very much mindful of your guest requirements around travel and other commitments. This is great, and there's a good reason for that, because obviously that's part of the experience, and somebody not being able to finish a round because they have to catch a flight, that would deduct from that experience. But for the general course, there's another very business centered reason for wanting to do this well, because the green fees and also membership fees obviously a big chunk of revenue. And this is where it comes down to how we're presenting our course, how we're presenting our experience. So that flow needs to match. And obviously also if the time goes over, and we're not saying that this happens all the time, but even if a percentage of times go over, that impacts on food and beverage and merchandise revenue, because people just don't have the time. And more often than not, they have to go and run and slam the trunk because they've got wives, kids to get back to, or they need to get back to work, and things just didn't work out as they expected. So I think let's jump ahead in terms of how do we measure that, and how can we measure flow and experience on the course. And obviously there's a classic metric that is our average round time is such and such. But what we found is that, and obviously having tracked 7 million rounds of golf, there's a lot of data that comes with that, that this doesn't always tell the full story. So here's an example. There's a course that wants to play in that magic 4 hours, and they came in a busy March of 3,300 rounds at 4:06, and that's the average round time. And we would all agree that looks good. But when it comes to looking a bit deeper under the hood, they actually found that their early morning rounds and their quick rounds and rounds of members versus guests, members that know the course well, really balance out the slower rounds, and the average really is not as good an indicator as they would have thought. So in their case, they found that 27% was on pace or faster, and obviously some were materially faster. That's your early rounds guys just wishing through. So they realized there's a huge opportunity of almost 73% of play that is not optimal, and some of that is 30-40 minutes over, which is where that pain point starts to appear. And obviously this is something that you are now tracking and looking at. So maybe Derek, from your side, when you started using Tagmarshal and just having more oversight of the course, and you can show us, or you can tell us just now how you use it in day to day. We've got a few screens that talk to that, but there was some base data that looked like it does on the left. So there's obviously an average round time, but there's a certain amount of rounds that are on pace, and then there's rounds that are going over. And just what the data told us and what the data told you is that if you tweak certain levers, and if you ensure that certain things are done better, and obviously you manage the course with better oversight, and you're really empowering your rangers out there, you can make sure that there's less of those variables that might impact. And it was really telling how quickly you managed to improve that. So just a few weeks later, you had almost 90% of your play on pace and within 10 minutes of it, which obviously means that there's a better flow. And sure, the average round time came down nicely. So maybe what we should do, Derek, is just jump in what that actually looks like for you and your team in terms of oversight and understanding your course better and being empowered. So here's a screen of the system. So maybe just give us a minute of how you use it and what's important for you.
Yeah, well, basically we know where the points are on the course where it is going to go a little bit slower. So therefore you don't have to react right away. You know, like for instance, generally our wind is out the west. So if you're playing the par 5-6, long tough hole into the wind, your average golfer is about 15 handicap. It's going to be tough for them. So you can make allowances on that particular hole, if you see what I mean. And then by the time they get on the next hole, and then the par 3, generally it will have straightened itself out. The other question as well is like at the 10th, we have a tee shot where we have to make an 11, maybe 10 minutes to allow players to have a cup of coffee or whatever, you know. You factor all that in, and also the fact that Carnoustie is a difficult golf course, and a lot of your guests are higher handicapped, so you have to make allowances. And if it's really windy, some days, you know, it's going to be slow. But generally speaking, you can identify, if you identify the fault early enough, i.e. don't let it go, you know, 15 minutes behind. What I do is, if I see 7, 8 minutes, I'll just go out and have a wee chat with them and walk with them and maybe ask them to play ready golf for a little bit, catch up. And honestly, it really works. 9 times out of 10 it works. So that's how we're operating the system anyway at the moment.
And you would then also go and show the player and show them, look, that's the impact you're having, and you might not be aware, and how can you help us do that better? Is that how you do it?
Yes, well, what we have is we have a tablet that we take out with us, and you can actually identify exactly where others are and where they should be. Now, something I've been conveying to the caddies is that they'll go, this group ahead is really slow, when in actual fact they're on pace. It could be that their group is playing a little too fast. So you say to them, look guys, just take your time, everybody's on time. Because if everybody starts playing faster, you'll get a big hold up on 16. You might get 3 groups on 16. So, I mean, we've only been running it since last August, but it seems to be getting through that we want everybody, the whole course, to move like a train. You understand what I mean?
Absolutely.
So
there's the same distance between all the groups all the time, so you keep that gap time as accurate as possible.
Yeah, we do our best to do that. I mean, some days it's very difficult because we have people from all over the world, and my Chinese is not too great.
Neither is your English. I was going to say you need a translator here.
So sometimes you can't convey what you're trying to say.
The German tourists are very technical and trying to make jokes all the time.
Never heard that before.
No, never heard that one before. Couldn't possibly say so.
No, I'm kidding. Okay, so in terms of awareness of your team, and obviously your starter is now hooked into this, and your caddies are maybe also a bit more accountable. Is this something that you find helpful?
Oh yeah, yes, without a doubt. Because before we had Tagmarshal, it's only your opinion, but if you stand with your tablet and you can actually show somebody, say, look guys, this is where we are and this is where you should be, and then when you explain things to people, they just see it in a different light, and it just makes things so much better.
I think maybe we jump into the data side a little bit, because what you spoke about, Derek, is the on-course and that live data, which obviously is great because you've got oversight. But there's more to that, because if a lot of data has been collected, that obviously can now be used for analysis and to look for improvement. So here's what that looks like, and you'd be very familiar. So we're looking at how many rounds we tracked, what's the goal time we've applied. There's an opportunity to have variable goal times, even if you know that you've got member play that's faster and guest play that's slow, or your mornings run faster than your afternoons, so you can manage in line. Here's what a month looks like, and one of the things that we're tracking is marshal interventions, or when you go out, you might want to take a note. Then there's your hole by hole stats. And obviously every course has got a fairly good idea of where there might be bottlenecks and where there might be holes that are tough or not performing, and that's fine. You can make allowances for that, but you still want to stay on top of it. So if a hole continuously underperforms, maybe there's setup adjustments that can be made. Then you've got your starter accuracy, and from what the team tells me, this is something that they found really had a big impact at Carnoustie. So you looked to improve your starter accuracy further. Obviously your starters are really good, and we're going to talk about them just a few slides from now in terms of the impact that they have and how important they are. But just to, and Derek, you said you want to keep that interval true from the start, obviously. So I remember the team telling me that some of the immediate improvements in your performance and in your data came from improving that starter accuracy. Is that something that you would agree with?
Oh, definitely. We have 3 main starters here, and I talked to each one of them individually to explain. You know, we have 10-minute tea times. You know, try and stick to the 10 minutes, because it just makes the course flow so much better. Whereas before, oh yeah, these guys have teed off quickly, put you in the next group. No, that's not. So more recently, we've been getting them to stick to the tea times, and it has made a difference without a doubt.
Brilliant. So that pie chart that we looked at in terms of what's the performance like, this is obviously your pace distribution, which is part and parcel of your day-to-day stats in our system. That really is what we call sort of a moment of truth in terms of what's the experience like out there that goes beyond the average run time. Is this something that you look at, and that you also look at in terms of, okay, this month we're expecting a lot of play volume, and that's sort of a respectable outcome, or the weather is getting tougher, and so that you are planning the performance a little bit in line with this, and maybe even setups and so on?
Yeah, well, there is another factor here at Carnoustie, is that during lunchtime between 12:30 and 1:30, we have, which is members' times. Occasionally they have competitions, they'll be on. We don't really have any control over pace of play, because at the moment they don't have Tagmarshal.
Okay.
So often you'll find, you know, in the afternoon it goes a bit slower because of this. But we'll be looking at that though, you know. But generally speaking, yeah, we have to factor in wind conditions, rain, etc., especially being in Scotland here.
So your rain and wind setup is the norm, and if the sun shines, you don't know what to do.
Pretty much.
No, I'm kidding. Thank you so much. So one of the things that obviously we also look at is a better understanding of how do your days run, how do your times in terms of morning tee offs, later and afternoon, and that we believe has also been helpful to you, just in terms of running your staffing appropriately and getting more attention to those days that where things are more at risk. And obviously that frees up people to do other jobs and add more value, rather than just patrolling, or maybe not being as efficient as they could be, if you can use them elsewhere on the course. So this top and bottom left is also Carnoustie data. So your daily distribution across the days, and that is, there's a great and immediate improvement that happened there. And this is basically a bar chart version of that pie that we looked at, where your dark red is your 40 minutes over, your green is on pace, and everything in between is 10, 20, 30, 40. And you can see that your Saturdays, for instance, where there's more member play, for instance, is now fully green. The guys obviously whooshing through the course. But your Friday used to be potentially a little bit tricky, because that's obviously popular day. And now you've really decreased the times that go over, and there's a much better flow. And same here, like your mid of day, like you said, your afternoon, the things sometimes get a bit jammed, and now we've got much more green in this, and much more within 10 minutes. And obviously that's success. So from your side, Derek, is that something that is helpful to you in terms of your staff scheduling and just knowing what to focus on and when to go and get people out there?
Yeah, without a doubt, it's very helpful. As I say, if I could explain this to the rest of the staff, you know, that if you can nip things in the bud before it becomes a big problem, everybody's happy, because the guests are happy, you're happy, and the course is flowing, you know. Yeah, very helpful, yeah.
Brilliant. So we want to get the mic to Colin, because you haven't really said enough, Colin, and I know that you love to tell a great tale about Carnoustie. So one of the questions we want to ask you is, obviously the Open Championship has been phenomenal, and it was your 8th time, and what is your signature hole one of the toughest par threes in golf. And obviously, a lot of people come and want to have that experience, and they see it on TV, and they put it on their bucket list, and they try and book around. So how do you accommodate their desire to play that championship course with making sure that it's playable? What's important here? Like, how do you make sure that the guys play appropriate tees, for instance, and what's important? And do you maybe also accommodate your setup for regular play to make it more playable? What are your tricks, and what's the magic sauce? Because you want to marry that challenge with it's playable and guys don't fail out there.
Yeah, it's, again, I think with Derek, I said he's alluded to the standard of golfer as well. So as much as everybody thinks that they can climb Mount Everest, not everybody can. There's only a chosen few. When we have a policy that you can use any tee, I'm not necessarily a big fan of that personally. I think there's, yeah, you're wanting to give everybody the options. I mean, our course is long. You know, the 6,200 is the length of the ladies' golf course, so that is long. So we are looking at you know, different ways of just getting sets of tees to accommodate that kind of standard of golfer. You know, our back tee for our visitor is 6,900. And if you let anybody play off it, then yeah, it's great. I mean, it's wonderful everybody can do it, but then that is going to have an impact on pace of play. But certainly this year with the Open Championship, the course was set up, and it's weather dependent. You know, Mother Nature will set up your golf course. I mean, yeah, you can have plans, but then we didn't know that we were going to have the warmest summer in a generation, and that obviously burnt the rough off. But in May, we had a lot of rough, and the pace of play went up. We had a lot of corporate days on with the championship, what we call Patrons Days, which they were playing between the lunchtime slot, which is generally for our members. So we had visitors from 9 in the morning through to 4 in the afternoon, and it was taking 6 hours to go round, and unhappy visitors. Yes. I remember one particular chap. He was, and quite rightly, he was upset and he was annoyed, but you know, that was slightly out with our control, because on the corporate days, they were playing so Tom Watson, for example, was playing the 16th, and with every group of that patrons, and that just slowed up play, and we weren't aware of that, and that obviously caused an issue to our guests and to our members, and we had to deal with it, which we did. So yeah, it's incredible. Yeah, the superintendent and the guys, I mean, they put the pins in the correct position. If it's windy days, they'll not stick them at the front of the green. If you're trying to get over a burn, they'll put the pin at the back. So they're constantly looking at how playable the golf course is. But at the same time, we do want it to be tough. It's a balance. It is a balance. I think as long as all the golfers are aware there are other people on a golf course. I mean, we can have all the systems going around, but you know, a lot of the onus is on the individual, is on the person. And the golfer has to be aware that Ready Golf, you know, we are promoting it. It's amazing that, you know, they all sort of wander around and they all, 4 golfers go to 1 ball. Well, no, just go to your ball. You do got to be wary that you're, you know, if you're walking in front of people, that you're just fully aware of, you know, golf balls being hit. Well, not always. I mean, the safest place to stand is probably in the middle of the fairway, and it's just generally making sure that everybody is aware of other people on the golf course. Golf is a selfish sport, so by nature, golfers can be selfish. So it's just understanding, yeah, there's other people out there. So just, you know, please, you know, just, yeah, we're wanting everybody to have a great time, but and the signature holes. So obviously, people, you know, number 6, Hogan's Alley. People, obviously, they give us caddy groups. They're going to explain that, and we want that, but. The other day, there was actually interesting. There was a guest that they'd taken 4 hours, 50 minutes to go round, and they never waited on one shot, and the flow was great. They had a fantastic time, and that was 20 minutes, 15 minutes over our set time, and they were delighted. It's the flow. That's the big thing, is the flow. So, and your best round of golf, or your most enjoyable round of golf, is not necessarily how quickly you've played. It's just if it's just all flowed along, as Derek says, the train effect, it's just moving around, everything was nice. It's when you cue. Nobody likes to cue. And we do have a point on the 16th that every group tends to wait on the 16th tee, not because of the 16th is a tough hole, but the 18th and the 17th are incredibly difficult. There are burns, there are out of bounds. the ability of the golfer generally is the ball will be in a burn. Well, you've got to go and fish the ball out of the burn. You've got to go and hit another ball because you've hit it out of bounds. So that'll slow up play. I mean, you think the first 15 holes are tough. You wait to play the last 3. So you've got to bear in mind the severity of the golf course. So when we're setting it up, yes, there was a lot of rough in May, but then it all burnt off and there was no rough. So if you're comparing May this year to May last year, May was a lot slower because you were actually having to go and look for your golf ball, when in May 2017, you just wandered onto it. You just saw it, you went over it, and you hit it. Well, you are technically allowed to go and look for a golf ball. So if you're looking for a ball for 2 minutes every hole, well, there's 36 minutes added onto your round. So again, it shouldn't be anecdotal, and this is where Tagmarshal is fantastic, that it gives you evidence. We can see where the players have hit their golf balls. We can see where they've walked to, and generally it's not in a straight line. It's a lot of zigzagging. So you've got to bear that in mind. And society nowadays, people do not have any patience at all. But our visitor is quite comfortable in taking 4:45. If there's flow, 5 hours, they are happy. You know, we don't want anybody to take 5.5 hours going around for a round of golf.
Sure.
But, again, sometimes you have to look at yourself and say, oh, that's the problem's over there. Well, no, sometimes the problem's with you, or the issue is with you, and you just got to be mindful of other people on the golf course. That adage of always keep up with the group in front, not from the group behind. So you've got to, there's a balance, and everybody is responsible. The golfer's responsible, the caddy's responsible, we're responsible. But if you're communicating and you're engaging and you're talking, then you will achieve the end goal, which is pace of play at a set time, and we are very comfortable with 4 hours 35 minutes.
Maybe, Colin, this is a good time to look at that smarter starter section and how your starter process set the pace and keep golfers accountable. I know your starters, you know how critical they are. You've handpicked really smart guys for that job. So maybe you just want to quickly dig into that. And Derek as well, if you've got any views on it, what's important, and are they traffic and experience managers rather than just a starter who gets people out? We've got two slides on this that maybe lend some pointers for this. So what are your thoughts on the starter and them also potentially vetting players as they come in for age, gender, handicap, mobility? What are we expecting? How can we preempt and also maybe work with the caddies so that we can ensure that that everybody has a great time out there? Colin, are you still there? Or is it us? Colin? Stephen, can you hear us?
Yeah, loud and clear. I'll just try and give Colin another buzz in now.
Okay, so Colin seems to have dropped. So we obviously had a number of conversations with Colin beforehand, and one of the things that stood out for me was how important the starter is for managing the players and who's coming through, and also just really facilitating and ensuring that the players know, hey, you're here to have a great time, and we're here to make that happen for you. So the golf course is yours. Just play your best possible round, and we're delighted to have you. And obviously, Colin even mentioned, like, if he could, he would have and employ PGA pros for every single position on the course, because then he knows that there's a passion for golf. Obviously, that's not realistic, and some courses do that. The passion for golf is contagious. So his starters in particular are super excited golfers. So that passion comes through when they engage with golfers, and an important role to play. Maybe while we're trying to get Colin back, let's quickly jump a few steps back when we want to talk about the consistency and experience, and it's there is a challenge in golf is that a lot of courses and also a lot of players have accepted a certain status quo, in that today was bad again, and there's nothing we can do, and it's tough to manage, and it's the guys in front of us, and it's not really an attitude that we would deploy elsewhere in life, because if we're going to another service provider, say a restaurant, or we're booking a holiday or something like that, how forgiving are we as customers if there's delays and wait times, say at the airport, and my flight's an hour late or what have you? Time is precious. So, or if your steak takes 40 minutes longer, if your breakfast's great on a Tuesday at a restaurant, but it's terrible on a Saturday. So that's where consistency really is a measure of quality. And how does it influence our loyalty and willingness to return and refer others if there's no consistency? And how many chances do we give a service provider? Obviously, we're very forgiving if we're going to a Michelin-star restaurant, because there is probably it's probably a bucket list experience, but in your day-to-day, that is quite different. So we need to ask ourselves the same questions on the golf course. How forgiving are we as consumers if there are wait times and delays, and if there's no consistency? A round starts 20 minutes late, takes 40 minutes longer. Time is money, especially for younger players. So we need to be mindful of that and try and, like Hunky Yunus saying, do that experience quite better. Colin, are you back?
Yes, back. Yeah, we had obviously didn't have enough money in the meter there.
Great. So we wanted to quickly look at the starter, and because you're very mindful, obviously, of putting great people in that particular position, because they've got such an important role in terms of the traffic and experience management, and also potentially sort of preempting and vetting what's coming through in terms of age, gender, handicap, mobility, what's to be expected, and they've got a close relationship with the caddies too. So give us a bit of insight as to what's important for them, and what's important in terms of their role of being big custodians of the Carnoustie experience.
Well, I'll let Derek answer this. He's working with the starters every day.
Some good points there. Obviously, as we talked about earlier, we want them to start on time. 10-minute tee times makes a difference for the flow, as we talked about earlier. Secondly, our starters are great. They really interact with the guests. It's not just about on the tee, sir, tee off. No. Where do you come from, etc., etc. Talk to them. Also, they try to size up their golfing ability. Now, if they're like 15, 18 handicap, they will suggest, so I think you would enjoy the course much more if you were to play the red tees today. It's windy, you don't want to be slogging off white tees or yellow tees. And generally they'll go, yeah, they go for that. So it's all part of the experience. They'll also tell them about pace of play, about Tagmarshal, and how we operate the course. You're expected, for example, to be on the 10th tee, 2 hours, 15 minutes, hopefully, but it's not a strict rule. Explain to them about you're allowed some time to go into the tee shack and get some in tea, stuff like that. So by the time they tee off, hopefully they're in a great mood and they're ready to play.
And would they also go and remind players of that there's certain tough holes for them to look forward to and to be mindful of, or is it something that's more of the caddy's role?
Yeah, generally that's something that the caddies will do, but as the starter is talking to the guest, generally the caddies will interact as well. But out on the course, they'll explain hole by hole.
Sure.
How the difficulty of each hole,
And in terms of managing the day as a starter, obviously there's an age-old, the first groups out are critical. Is this something that you're putting a particular focus on, also from a caddy and from a live play management point of view, just making sure that the first groups out really set a good pace and a good flow for the day?
Very, very much so. I was just talking about that to Colin earlier on this morning, that the first groups is really critical, you know, because as I say, if you go slow, I'll just back up for the rest of the day. And again, you're starting to look at 5.5 hours, which we have pretty much eliminated over the season. So yeah, the caddies are well aware of this, as is the caddy master. It's very important.
There is a question that has come through. Malcolm, maybe you just want to field that quickly. I think that's a good question for you, Derek.
Sure. So the question is from Mark Kanev. Thanks for the question, Mark. He asks, hi everyone, just to ask the panelists, what's your policy if one of your early groups is 5 minutes late? How does it affect groups after? Do you still stick to 10-minute intervals, meaning everyone is 10 off late?
Well, generally speaking, what we'll do is we try to just play it by ear, because some people actually are naturally quick players, you know, but we do try to stick to the tee times as best we can, because it makes Tagmarshal work so much better. Yeah, pretty much stick to the times if we can. You know, there is times when...
Go ahead, Derek.
Sorry. Yeah, there is times, unusual circumstances, when people, let's say, turn up even on the wrong day, the wrong time, they made a mistake, and say they thought it was Tuesday and they've turned up on a Monday or something. And what we'll do is we will actually do our best to get them out.
Oh, well, definitely. If I can jump in on this, this happens every week. I mean, even happened on Saturday there. That guests are coming a long way. They're excited to be here, and they've come on the wrong day. They've come on the 20th of August when it was the 20th of April. They booked it. They did it online, and they've done it incorrectly. But first and foremost, we will get you out. We're not going to say sorry, you've missed your day and go. No, we will absolutely get you out, and we'll put a squeeze on, and that happens every day. But the minute you put a squeeze, you are going to affect the pace of play. However, the experience of that guest who's really upset, more so with themselves, and once you've kind of calmed them down, and you've said, right, sir, madam, we're going to get you on that golf course, you're going to have a great time, that to us is more important than someone taking 20 minutes longer than they should do. It's the most important thing is getting the guest on the golf course, and it literally on Saturday there was a chap that came in and says, I booked a time, I'm playing at 9:30, and this is on a Saturday. We do not let any visitors play on a Saturday. He says, sir, we don't. Have you checked your schedule? And he said, no, I'm playing. And I looked at his schedule, and it was the day before, and he was embarrassed. But we got him out. We didn't get him out exactly at 9:30 because it was members' times, but we did put him in a squeeze in the afternoon with the visitors. So literally every week we have that, and that has a knock-on effect. So yeah, we're constantly, you're trying to stick to the times as much as you possibly can. So we definitely wouldn't want to, if the course was moving really, really quick, we wouldn't be putting, we're not putting more people out. It's not about us generating more revenue, which for a lot of facilities absolutely is. The key for us is just to make sure that we understand the flow of the golf course, and if there is a challenge or an issue on the golf course, Tagmarshal just highlights it to us, and we can go straight to the issue.
Thank you so much. And maybe also from outside, from a data point of view, to answer Michael's question. So we would always say that it's easier to manage that one group and get them back in position than it is to manage the 20 groups afterwards, because you can manage a group of 4 people proactively rather than changing the day for 100 people. So the answer from what we've learned from the operators would always be, okay, this is our process, this is what we need to stick to. If somebody goes outside that, we try and control that variable rather than adjusting our process to accommodate them. There are obviously private clubs out there that have got no tee times, and it's really a case of, okay, we want the members to have this flow experience, and that actually requires even more mindfulness around keeping a gap time. That's true, and that's where technology is almost indispensable, because while you want to have that flow of, okay, I can come and play, and when I'm ready, I get out there, if the experience is not great, that is actually backfiring. Okay, so we're mindful of time, and thank you so much for sharing all these great insights. So there's just 2 points we want to just make in terms of a risk of rounds going over, and we saw that even if your average round time looks decent, there might be a percentage, and it might be 10 or 8 or 12% of rounds that are going over and that are at risk. And even if it's only 6%, there's a considerable knock-on effect that this might have on people's ability to spend time and also spend their money, obviously. And a lot of courses have got a revenue target for each person that comes. So this is a big impact. So if we do that better, and if we bring that consistency and make sure, one, the flow is right, the experience is great, but also people are coming through at a time that's expected and within their time budget, that's when we can ensure that that our food and beverage spend and our pro shop spend doesn't suffer. So from your side, Colin, and I know that this year you've had this amazing open, and obviously that's been a big focus on yours. You've mentioned previously that you're looking for further improvement for your operation. Is this something that you're mindful of? And then obviously you want to give people the time to spend in your restaurant because it's amazing. So is that something that comes into your thinking and into also your performance tracking?
Yeah, it's definitely. Again, it's our customer. I mean, so many of them are being bust in and bust out. I mean, not a huge amount stay in Carnoustie, so they're generally staying in St Andrews. So it's making sure that before they get here, that we're highlighting all the great facilities, the services that we can offer. So our great restaurant, pro shop. We need to get that information out to our guests very, very quickly. We're trying to get them here. The dwell time is definitely longer than it used to be before we built our new facility here, which opened 5 months ago. So there are people that are spending longer here, but it's definitely making sure that obviously a great deal of our visitors come with tour operators, so that, as I say, they're bussed in. It's working and engaging with the tour operators to highlight to them, the fantastic facility that we've got, and we want that tour operator to get better and better at what they do. That allow, if they do that, then the guest experience will improve. So we need to engage with them. We need to talk with them, saying, this is who we are, this is what we can offer. And we're wanting that tour operator to bring people that are using our overall facilities, not just the golf course. We're wanting them to use the restaurant, use the pro shop. And again, I think we talked about it before, that they're playing 2 rounds in one day. There's not many that are doing that. Most of them is here for the day, so they do have a day. So we're fortunate in that side, but it's just making sure that we get as many of our visitors to experience everything at Carnoustie: golf course, restaurant, pro shop. That's what we need to work hard at that, and yet we're not the finished article on that in any shape or form, but that's definitely something that we're working very hard at.
Brilliant. Then just one last point in terms of the experience and the opportunity for loyalty and repeat play. So we've got Rich Katz from Billy Kaspergoff on the line, and we know that repeat play is one of their great goals for their busy daily fee courses that they're running, in terms of, I've got a chance, I've spent money on somebody coming to our facility, I want to make sure that they have got a great experience so they come back next week, and I can turn a guest into a loyal repeat player. And obviously in the European setup, we've got a lot of semi-private clubs that are always canvassing to turn guests into members. So there's, again, like, even with a respectable average runtime, there is that potentially that pain point, and we may or may not know about it in terms of data, but if only 6% of rounds are at risk of going 40 minutes or an hour over, including a late start, that is a fair amount of rounds, almost 2,000 in your average sort of 30,000 round season. If 30% of your people that are potentially guests that would have considered becoming a member drop off and walk away because they haven't had a great experience, that is worth a lot of lost revenue. And while we're on and this is obviously not something that necessarily relates to Carnoustie, but it certainly relates to the clubs out there who are working really hard to future-proof and get younger members on board, where time is even more critical. There's a question from Rich Katz, actually. Malcolm, if you want to field it quickly.
So Rich Katz asks, what famous courses in America rely on Tagmarshal, and what are the results in terms of time and money saved? Also, which run-of-the-mill courses use Tagmarshal, and what are their outcomes?
Okay, so we've had a bit of a showcase list in the beginning. Obviously, Erin Hills and Whistling Straits are some of our longer-term customers that have been on with us for 3 years now, and they're resorts. So they've got two principal requirements, and that is they want to optimize the experience for their guests and members, and always look to do that better, and they want to optimize their revenue potential. So at Erin Hills, they've managed to, and this is another return on investment opportunity for managing the field better. They've managed to add another tier of time comfortably, and this time of the year, because the days are getting shorter, but through better management of their flow and of their field, they managed to add another one. And so Tagmarshal is worth $140,000 to them in green fees alone in a short season that's only 7 months long. And obviously an additional green fee for them means an additional guest at the resort that also spends money elsewhere, and there's revenue targets around accommodation and restaurant spend and so on. So this is working really well. There is a number of high-end private clubs that are using Tagmarshal just to optimize the experience and make sure that their members are accountable, because more often than not, members are not very easy to deal with, and they need to be accountable in terms of the effect that they may have on the flow. So there's Westchester, for instance, Valhalla, Pinehurst, number 9, there's Oakmont. And they've got a different, they're not as revenue driven, obviously, but they're experience driven. And that is what brings them all together. And then lastly, your question, Rich, with regards to run-of-the-mill courses. So we've got a number of $40 round courses. And what's important to them is firstly oversight. And they're using Tagmarshal in a way that reduces staff spend, because they can understand the cost better and run and manage the field flow ad hoc from the pro shop, instead of having marshals out there patrolling all the time and not necessarily being efficient. So they can save money like this, and obviously ultimately create a better experience for their guests and look to turn them into repeat players. So the result is that the average run time comes down, the flow gets better, and the pros out there are looking for capacity on the busy days for additional profitability. So thanks for that question. Just a last, and just to conclude, Colin, obviously you are not only working at Carnoustie, you're also a member at a course on the road where you play most of your golf, because I'd imagine it's hard for you to actually play a round of golf at Carnoustie without being interrupted and being roped into work. So you need an escape from that. And obviously for a lot of the people now on the call, how do you translate the key experience opportunities to the regular course? And what are the 3 most important items that you would focus on if you were managing a course that's not Carnoustie and that's not the Mount Everest, but a course down the road? What are the key takeaways? What would you focus on? And obviously that's something that practically maybe some of the people on the session now can then consider.
Yeah, I mean, again, the keys are the conditioning of the golf course. But again, you're needing revenue, you need finances in place to be able to get that course into, exemplary conditioning. So, it's always going to be about conditioning of a golf course. First of all, I mean, a layout is, it doesn't need to be a Carnoustie. I don't think there really is only one Carnoustie, but you want it to be. It's got to be fun. It's got to be fun. We're trying to get more people playing the game of golf. So, I mean, if you were playing Carnoustie every day, you'd be in counselling. So yeah, you don't want to be. As much as I want people to be playing Carnoustie every day, it's one tough golf course. But staff, the second would be staff. You're just getting the hardest thing the hardest thing I've ever come across is getting good staff. We're lucky we have very good staff, but that's the toughest thing. And again, I was reading a quote from Richard Branson when people say customers come first, and Branson says no, the staff come first. And as a staff, you empower them, you train them, you get them to understand what what we're trying to deliver. They'll look after the customer well, very well, because that's what we have to do. So your conditioning of golf course, staff, that kind of high quality, and again, there's costs implicated in that as well. But again, if you're doing that, you're going to be getting people coming through regularly to play the golf course, and then just these off-course experiences. The pro shop, the pro shop is the PGA have a great saying. The PGA is the heart of golf. It's people will come into the pro shop to speak to the pros on any matter. It can be on the course, off the course. And again, it's just that strong engagement. So you're wanting that pro shop experience, and you're wanting the food and beverage experience to be, outstanding. Everybody wants a lovely experience, and that's not necessarily about a cost. I know there are costs implicated to it, but it's just making sure that you have the nicest hamburger, fish and chips. It's just got to be the best quality. So. Definitely, course conditioning, staff, and that off-course experience is definitely what I would always focus on, and we do. But you do need to have money to do it. So, there's a lot of golf clubs nowadays that are really struggling for members, and it's just looking at, making sure that you have the finances in place to allow you to carry out, that vision. And so, that's a key factor that I've always been working on.
Thank you, Colin. Maybe we want to bring back the conversation just to conclude to Hanke Yoon and the USGA challenge, just to look after the experience and make sure that there's satisfaction, because satisfaction equals participation. Participation is great for golf and obviously for the business of golf. So it's a bit of a chicken and egg thing. So if you've got a golf course that, even with limited means, provides a great experience and does those things right, and is mindful of players' time as well, because time, especially for younger players, is money. That certainly adds value, and value, I think, is what you're talking about. Stephen, from your side, and you've been very patient, and Malcolm, are there any more questions? And thanks so much for everyone who stayed on. This has been super helpful.
No, we have no other questions. I did have one, but Colin did answer it.
Okay,
So
no
other questions.
Okay. If there are any more questions, you're welcome to shoot. It's not often that we get Colin Sinclair and Derek Reed on the line, so now's your chance.
I just had one there for you, Colin. You spoke about it briefly the other day about getting stalked by marshals on the course who previously in the past would be driving around backwards and taking a guess of what's going on the course, and that you were having a good round, but you still felt someone looking over your shoulder the whole day. How have you felt that Tagmarshals helped that experience in your course?
Yeah, very much so. And that's something that we were very conscious of, that we have a fantastic meet greet at the clubhouse, meet greet in the shop, meet greet in the first tee. It's like going to the restaurant. Is your meal okay? Is it okay? Yeah, it's fine. We just felt it was overbearing, and we wanted the guests to be out there, but not that the guests are out there with no one watching them. We are watching. We are with obviously the assistant Tagmarshal. I say your best rounds of golf are the most enjoyable when it just flows and you don't see anybody. When I'm saying you don't see anybody, you're not seeing any marshals peering over you. It's definitely not something that we wanted to kind of get away from that and just let that flow go. But like anything else, it's not that we're not keeping an eye on it, and it's all anecdotal that people say, "Oh, you're not keeping an eye on the golf course." We're keeping an eye on the golf course every second, and we're making sure that Derek and the team, that if there is an issue, then they just go to the problem, and they can see why there is a problem. But there's something else I was probably going to say, that we do get obviously a lot of overseas guests, and some of them don't speak. We don't speak their language, and you're trying to get them moving, and you physically cannot get them going. And then that happens, and then there's really nothing you can do about it. You could say miss a hole out, but there are some times that you just cannot get them moving. And again, the onus, everybody's responsible here. We're responsible, the caddie's responsible, but the golfer's also responsible for making sure that when they're on the golf course, their etiquette is strong. That they're making sure everybody's having a good time. But Tagmarshal makes a big assist for us.
Well, thanks very much. Malcolm, you don't have any more questions at this stage, do you?
No more questions.
Okay, great. Well, obviously being a bit more time conscious to you and our guys, that'll conclude this morning's webinar. A massive thanks again to Colin and Derek. I know you guys have your normal day to get on with today and a hell of a busy day on the course. And we hope you don't have to work hard and you do get to watch a bit of the golf over this weekend. And lastly, thanks. No pleasure. And lastly, thanks to all our other guests today. And if you have any questions, please feel free to make contact. And we hope you tune in soon again. Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
And we'll send out the recording of this to anyone to check in after or share with anyone who might be interested.
Okay. Awesome, guys. Have a great day.